So just last month, Congress passed a piece of legislation meant to fight online sex trafficking. Now, look, I think it's a worthy goal, right? Of course, I want to fight sex trafficking. Of course, most people want to fight sex trafficking. The only people that are in favor of sex trafficking are sex traffickers. So, of course, you want to crack down on them. However, unfortunately, like anything, this law isn't exactly what it appears to be, and actually could be disastrous for not only sex workers, but also for free speech in general. Now, like if you're a free speech warrior, you should be incredibly worried about this piece of legislation. I'm going to go to an article here in Gadget. Now, they say that the Senate has passed the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act, or SESTA, and the FOSTA allows states and victims to fight online sex trafficking act by a vote of 97-2. Wow, 97-2. That is near unanimous. Look, usually when Congress gets together, it's usually bad. When there is bipartisanship, hold on to your wallet or hold on to your rights. Because normally, as I said, Congress does not come together unless they're there to screw you over. And in this case, unfortunately, that's the byproduct of this legislation. Now, the bill apparently removes protections for websites under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act and makes sites and services liable for hosting what it very loosely defines as sex trafficking and prostitution content. Now, worse, FOSTA sets posted in the law that sex work and sex trafficking are the same thing and makes discussion and advertising part of the crime. So you understand what that's saying. So you have sex work being classified as the same thing as trafficking. But wait a minute, one is consensual, the other is not. And look, part of the argument against sex work is, oh, these women they're forced into it. Not necessarily, and that is being disputed by sex workers themselves, who say overwhelmingly, no, we're not forced into it. We're not being trafficked. We actually choose to do this profession. So, and that's actually the majority, right? Now, according to the Freedom Network, which is the largest coalition of experts and advocates providing direct services to survivors of human trafficking, this group is against SESTA and FOSTA. They said, quote, protecting the rights of sex workers and not conflating them with trafficking victims is critical to the prevention of sex trafficking. Now, they also note that they have data that backs that up. They said that more people are trafficked into labor sectors than they are into commercial sex. So more than likely, these people are doing hard labor and not being sex trafficked. Now, does it happen? Do people get sex trafficked? Obviously, and that is a big problem. And I actually would like to see real legislation to go after that. But this is not what SESTA and FOSTA is. That actually will do the opposite. Now, on the free speech front, let me tell you how this impacts that. The Technology and Marketing Law blog wrote that there is no mistaking that FOSTA-SESTA had violated or will violate the First Amendment. Plainly states that the statute implicates constitutionally protected speech. How? Because it basically causes websites to completely eliminate all places of discussion that might feature sex work. Because, as I said, if you are conflating sex work with trafficking and you make discussion both illegal, well then you have eliminated any sort of safe space for people in the sex work industry. Now, they said that websites are removing content in communities wholesale. The result of FOSTA-SESTA making safer working conditions more difficult by criminalizing digital conversations about sex work, screening tools, and discussions about how to be safe while doing sex work. Now, some examples of what has been removed. Craigslist removed its entire personal section. And within days, Reddit removed entire communities Notably, it's R escorts and R sugar daddy subreddits. And other websites have completely shut down, including sites that facilitated safety in sex work. Look, you want to talk about censorship, right? Well, this is censorship. All these sites are now scrubbing places where sex workers can share stories, tips on how to keep safe, places and customers not to go to, things like that. So, look, that's a big problem. Now, personally, I believe that sex work, in all forms, prostitution, should be legalized and regulated. Why? Because I actually think that will protect sex workers, because then if they get abused, they can actually go to the police. If they're attacked, they can also go to the police. They don't have to deal with criminal elements to even do their profession. And guess what? This oversight might actually help prevent sex trafficking by giving, of course, police and the government oversight and tools to protect the victims. Unfortunately, what they've done with this bill, under the guise of ending sex trafficking, is make it more difficult to stop sex trafficking. And you violated free speech to boot. So, good job. And you've conflated two different things, sex work and sex trafficking, all at the same time. Tremendous work, guys. Now, of course, Congress, they didn't read this bill. They didn't read this bill at all. And look, you can make the argument that most congressmen don't read these bills. And that is a fair assumption. Normally, the staffers will read it and just basically give them gist. Then again, who wants to be seen voting against the sex, what is it? Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act. That right there would be political suicide. And unfortunately for this bill, this was backed by a lot of right-wing groups that basically want to control women, control women's bodies, and eliminate even pornography. So I think this was insidious in its application. It's taking something that a problem that a lot of people want to actually solve and not solving the problem, making the problem worse, and criminalizing something else. So I'm not in favor of this. And unfortunately, there's not enough people that are talking about this. And I'm sure a lot of these senators had great intentions. But unfortunately, these groups that were pushing this bill and naming this bill, they knew exactly what they were doing. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.